Hello everybody, today we're going to be talking about some of the more basic tricks to increase your damage for people who might not know them. While these tricks will mostly be for beginners, you still may be able to use this as a checklist to make sure you're doing everything right if you're just starting to get into getting better at the game. The first thing we're going to talk about is arguably the most important, and these are surge mods on your boots. Surge mods are equipable mods which allow you to increase your weapon damage for a specific element by picking up orbs, or by getting an armor charge through other means. However, normally this is done through picking up orbs. The way this works is similar to other decaying armor charge mods, and that is that whenever you have an armor charge, you get a timer of 10 seconds that starts counting down the moment you pick it up. So the idea is to pick up orbs just before going into damage so that you have surge mods on the entire time. This is made very easy by having players using Well of Radiance, because it spawns 3 orbs right off the bat, which allows you to have 30 seconds of increased damage very easily. You can increase the duration of this by using the time dilation mod on your class item, which adds 5 seconds for the first one and 3 seconds for the second one, allowing you to have a total of either 15 or 18 seconds for each stack. There is very little reason to use more than one stack of these unless you're in some sort of odd circumstance where you're doing DPS for over a minute. Now, back to the surge mods, let's talk about why these are so important. The surge mods are their own category of damage buff, which applies separately from all other ones, meaning it is multiplicative just like other damage buffs. The amount of damage that a surge mod gives is 10% for 1, 17% for 2, and 22% for having 3 of the same surge. Surge mods are the reason that people want to have their weapons matching elements, so that way they can use the same surge mod on multiple weapons. One question people might have if they are using weapons of multiple elements is how should they be distributing their surge mods? For example, a common rotation is Izanagi's Burden mixed with a rocket launcher. Because of the overpowered nature of rocket launchers right now, it's more effective to have 3 surge mods all dedicated to the rocket and none dedicated to Izanagi's, because the rocket is that much more powerful. So when deciding how to distribute your surge mods for different elementally charged weapons, you want to put more surge mods into the more powerful thing. We interrupt this video to bring you today's sponsor. Me. Look at this sad boy. With just one simple thing, you can make him feel all better. In all seriousness, I am a new and coming up YouTuber, so I would definitely appreciate any support you can give me. Let's get back to it. The next thing I want to talk about are reserve mods. Reserve mods allow you to increase the total amount of ammo you can carry. Obviously this is important because it is a direct correlation to your total damage. And in a longer damage phase, it is also a way of increasing your DPS so that you have DPS throughout the entire thing. Reserve mods are extremely important for doing good damage, and they need to be used properly. However, we also have some competing slots on the chest armor in the resistance mods. Resistance mods are very powerful, giving you a free 15% damage resistance for just having one of them. And they can be stacked for diminishing results similar to other mods, going from 15 to 25 to 35% resistance when using 3 of the same kind. An easy way to use both is during raid encounters or anywhere that you have a flag, you can put on a chestplate which has your reserve mods on for the weapons you are using, rally to the flag, and then switch over to your resistance chestplate. Doing this allows you to carry the ammo that you had from reserves while wearing resistance chestplates. The only thing to note is that if you die during the encounter, you will need to put the chestplate back on before you are revived, otherwise you will lose the extra ammo that you had when you are revived or when you respawn. You want to avoid reloading whenever possible during damage. This is because reloading is just downtime where you're not damaging the boss. Now, sometimes reloads just can't be avoided, especially on Titan where you don't have a lot of options to avoid reloading like you do on Hunter and Warlock. If you do find yourself in a situation where you need to reload, I recommend doing an animation cancel and shooting another weapon while it is cooling down. Here's what I mean by that. When you reload a weapon, you can actually see the magazine increase before the animation is finished. It may not seem like a lot of time, but every second really does count during a damage phase. The thing is that you can actually cancel the animation after the bullet has been put into the magazine, and it will actually not undo the reload. However, if you do this, you won't be able to shoot again until the duration of the reload timer has finished. That said, there's nothing stopping you from switching weapons and shooting another one during that time. As you can see, using something like Reconstruction, this even allows you to load an extra shot in whenever you do your reload. The best way to avoid reloading, however, is to use auto-loading perks on your weapons. A great example of this is going to be Reconstruction, especially on Apex Predator as a rocket launcher where the rounding is very generous. Another excellent choice is of course auto-loading holster. We also have exotics such as Rain of Fire or Dragon's Shadow. Another great choice for Hunter is of course Radiant Dance Machines, which allows you to spammily use the reload dodge. A great newer option to the game is also Threat of Ascent, which reloads your weapon whenever you activate your grenade. This is especially potent using grapples because of their short cooldown, and the fact that if you quickly use and cancel a grapple, you get half of the charge back. For rotations where you'll be throwing a lot of grenades that aren't using Strand, you could also use Demolitionist, which allows you to reload the weapon that the perk is on by throwing a grenade. This is great for encounters that give you back your grenade quickly, such as Atheon. There are some perk combinations that also improve your reload speed and mag size to the point of being effective to actually manually reload. One of the best examples of this is the Hothead with Field Prep and Clown Cartridge. While this role has fallen off some with the changes to Gjallarhorn in this season, it's still a very easy to use rocket that is definitely consistent, even if it is not on top by any stretch of the imagination these days. And here we have the most important part, and this is fitting into your team effectively. Now, what do I mean by that? When I say fitting into your team effectively, I mean doing what's best for your team. In many cases, you will already have Warlocks who are using Well, and if you already have 2 or 3 Wells, there's often no need to have a 4th one, and you would be better off using Strand to increase your DPS to add to the damage. Another common case is using Tractor Cannon to debuff the target, giving a big damage bump to all of your teammates. While using Tractor Cannon, you can also deal damage with special weapons, and it is a very unique role to have. A similar sentiment can be said for Gjallarhorn for teams that are using rockets, which should be most teams. There are also some things that do not stack with each other that some people might not be aware of. Some amazing examples of this are going to be any sort of debuff. For example, Tether and Tractor Cannon do not stack and do the exact same thing. So if you have somebody using Tractor, then using Tether will not be effective. However, in many cases, Tether does not last long enough to debuff the enemy throughout the entire damage phase. So I normally recommend having a Tractor unless you're in a special situation such as a dungeon with a short damage timer. Another big one is the Hunter's Gathering Storm Super, which only one should be applied to the boss at a time. This is because the damage over time of the super does not stack on top of itself, meaning that if 2 people stick the boss with a toothpick, that only one of them will be dealing damage to the boss. This is not true to Blade Barrage, so I recommend if you have multiple hunters using damage supers, that you only have one do Gathering Storm and the rest be on Blade Barrage, or even all do Blade Barrage because it is technically better. One of the newer things is the Pyrogel Titan Gauntlets. The slam from the hammer while using this exotic puts a cyclone down that damages the boss over time. This damage over time cannot be stacked, meaning that if 2 people proc their Pyrogel super at the same time and both throw it at the boss, only one of them will be doing damage, similar to Gathering Storm. This is also true to Vortex, Solar, and Pulse Grenades. In addition, most damage over time, or debuffs, cannot be stacked on top of each other. For example, something like Wither Horde, or Poison from Osteostriga / Necrotic Grips. The same can also be said for Scorch, Kinetic Tremors, Volatile, Stasis Freeze, and probably some more things I'm leaving out. However, in most cases, these things just simply do not stack. This is why frequently teams will say, who is the Wither Horde? Because you would normally only have one person using Wither Horde, because it's not able to stack with multiple players using it. One of the big exceptions to this is actually Anarchy, which can have multiple people sticking the boss with it. And here we have a quick little bonus, and this is Handling. Handling is pretty much the most important stat when you're doing DPS. Handling allows you to switch your weapons faster and aim them in quicker. Because of the multiple weapon nature of doing damage these days, it is amazing to have good handling on your weapons, and it can be the difference between taking down a boss or not in some situations. When doing any damage rotation, I highly recommend using dexterity mods for any of the weapons that you can in your rotation, at least 2 of them. If you're using weapons which need to be aimed down sights, such as sniper rifles, I recommend using targeting mods as well, because this makes the aim down sight speed faster for weapons of the matching element to the mod. These are actually a very large bump, giving about a 20% increase in handling to the element of the mods. This is a scalar, so it also allows it to go over the effects of 100 handling, so there is no reason to ever not be using these during damage.